Hello, welcome to today's live. I hope everybody had a good Christmas and or Hanukkah. It was the first time in about 20 years that both those holidays began on the same day. And whatever else holidays you're celebrating, I hope they're all going to be well. And a happy pre-New Year. We only have a week to go until it's 2025. Can you believe it? When I was in law school, I remember I started in 1988. I know that year actually existed. And I remember thinking when I graduate law school, which at that time was 1991, I was thinking, wow, that is so in the future, the 1990s. Well, anyways, welcome to my live. So the subject for today's live is timing. Okay, so I'll get into a little bit about, like, for example, the EB-5 visa and or the L1 and things like that, and the timing of when is best to do it and what some considerations are, especially because I've received a bunch of consultation requests recently, which give rise to the issue of which I'm doing the live today. So what you can do if you have questions, and it doesn't necessarily have to be on this. I mean, it has to be on immigration. Don't ask me, medical questions. If you have immigration questions, go ahead and ask them. You can just type them out. You don't have to repeat them because I'll get to it. Once I'm done with my initial live presentation, I will scroll back to the beginning. I will then see what the questions are, answer them, and then go from there. All right? All right. So first, let me tell you what, the issue is that happens. I get a lot of times people say, well, I'm here. I had this one just yesterday. I'm here on a B2 visitor visa. It's going to expire in a month. I want to change my status to EB-5, L1, or E2. Okay. And they have a month. Okay. So the first thing I have to let them know is that there's no way on this God's green earth that that's going to happen before it expires. Okay. First of all, I'm not sure a lot of people think that you can whip together an application that fast with everything that's necessary and just submit it to the authorities. Okay? The bottom line is, when you have an application that needs to be submitted to immigration, you do not whip it together and send it just so you hope you can stay in status. Okay? Not to say that there have not been cases where I have had to do such a thing because of timing and do the best I could within the quick timing that I had. But there's reality. So let's talk about the EB-5 for a minute. The EB-5 is the investment visa, $1.8 million, unless you're doing a regional center, of which it's basically almost $1 million now. And you're here on visitor visa. I mean, to put together an EB-5 with the legal brief, the declarations, the affidavits, the financial exhibits, the tracing of the money, the showing all the elements that are necessary in this particular case. In fact, it takes, when I'm doing such a petition, realistically, it takes months to put it together properly. Okay? That's running a immigration law firm, which again, obviously, an EB-5 is not the only case I have. So that's the first major issue. The second is, even if you get it submitted, let's just fantasize and pretend that you can do an EB-5 in a week and get it all done. Let's say you do that. You submit it. In the case that I told you, which I was emailed yesterday, that means that person then has 3 weeks for an EB-5 to be adjudicated. I mean, you may as well pretend you're on Mars and living there. That's the reality, okay? No how, no way USCIS is going to adjudicate an EB-5 in 3 weeks. Okay, it's not going to happen. So that's the other issue, okay? So one is the proper preparation time, and the other is the adjudication time. Both of those add up to way more than a month. So the first thing that I do when, for example, with the EB-5, is I tell the person, we can't worry about the EB-5 yet. If you're on B2 and you absolutely positively don't want to go back to your country, then we have to consider non-immigrant visas. Okay? We have to consider a non-immigrant visa that we can do a change of status of. Now, here's the law on non-immigrant visas. And guess what? I'm pulling out a cough drop from my pocket because who wants to hear a live where you're coughing all the time? And it tastes good too. So the non-immigrant visa law is that if you submit a non-immigrant petition for change of status before your current stay expires, you'll get an automatic 120-day extension, okay, while they're adjudicating it. And boom, you're in for 120 days, okay? So if the person has a B2, a visitor, and we have a month left, we might be able to do a change of status to student, which, if they don't want to go back to school, that's not going to work. If they come from a treaty country, we might very well be able to do the E2. But even then, to be honest, to submit an E2 in that sort of amount of time is not likely either. But at least if they go back to their home country, the E2 will go directly to the consulate if they qualify, and then they'll have an appointment and they come back on the E2 without having to stay outside the country that long. Okay. And then once they're here on the E2, for example, they can renew it time after time until they die if they want, but they can renew it and then apply for the EB-5. When you're applying for the EB-5, you cannot have as the first priority an urgency to get it adjudicated, because that assumes two things. That assumes they're going to adjudicate it on an expedited fashion, which is a real bad thing to assume with immigration. And it also assumes they're going to approve it. And that's not a real good thing to assume either. Immigration's getting harder, not easier. And with who's coming into office, it's going to be even harder. So we cannot rush things through. That's the last thing we do. The very last thing. I've had clients that get mad because it hasn't been submitted soon enough. And I say, look, I will not let it go out the door until it is just how I want it and it has the best chance possible of succeeding. I just don't see the purpose of rushing something out the door that hasn't been properly reviewed, edited, revised, and so forth. Because if you end up with a denial or an RFE because it wasn't done, then what's the use? Okay? So that's that. So once you would get the non-immigrant visa, then you can do the EB-5, or, the non-immigrant visas are also the L1 and so forth. But unless you're doing an easy non-immigrant visa, like an extension of the B2, which that'll only get you 6 months max, or an F1, those are pretty easy, but it costs you a lot of money because you got to pay the non-immigrant fees to school, which are 10 times the state fees, but that's how it is. Then it's going to take time to prepare everything. So realistically, sending me an email saying you have a month left on your B2 and you just don't want to go back, and you want to get these, super nice immigrant visas or investment visas, in 3 weeks. Not happening. Okay, if you have to go back, you have to go back. And then it just gets adjudicated here, and then you come fine. Okay, I mean, you're going to create a big hole if you don't submit it properly and then go from there. And speaking of that, I have people who, and to this day, I don't understand it. They'll do like 20 minutes of research on the internet, like on an L1, for example, which is an intercompany transferee visa where you need to show all kinds of stuff from the foreign company and all kinds of stuff from the U.S. company. You need to show, executive powers and all this other stuff. They'll do 20, 30 minutes of research, and they'll think they're an expert on an L1, and they'll submit what they found. And then what happens, it ends up getting denied. And then I've had so many people like this. They come in the door and they go, I did everything I was supposed to. Why was it denied? And then, of course, I look at their petition and it was blankety blank. Okay. Didn't have anywhere near what it needed. So it's not much different the way I look at it than if you break your arm. You're not going to go on the internet and go, how do you fix a broken arm? And then try to fix it yourself. Nobody would even think of that. So it's kind of similar to that. I mean, there's a reason that lawyers go to law school for 3 years after a bachelor's degree and then have, all kinds of years of experience. I mean, even after all that and after they pass the bar, when they're new, they're referred to as green lawyers because they're new. They're newbies. So it takes lots of years of experience and education and stuff to do it properly. Just like, I'm looking at my electrical light switch there. If there was a problem with that, I could go on the internet and try to find out how to fix it, but I'm not going to because I know I'm not going to do it right. And I know there's probably 25 things I'm going to miss, I mean, I could go on the internet and just go, well, the green wire and the black wire and the red wire, and all you do is connect them and do this and that. So that's my spiel on that. So the bottom line here is that the timing of when you need to do things cannot be such that you send something to an immigration attorney and say, I want to change status and get adjudicated in the next month, on an investment visa, EB-5, whatever. It doesn't work like that. There needs to be sufficient time. So while there are ways that I can, file stuff to get you to stay here, they're interim, non-immigrant type ways. And then procedurally, we can go from there to try to get the immigrant visa. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's that. That's my spiel on this particular subject. So let me scroll back to the beginning through all the people that joined. Thank you for all joining. If any of you want to send me hearts, go ahead. I like seeing that number go up. Okay. Hope everybody had a Merry Christmas. Lots of good food, all that. Okay. So I'm back at the beginning now. Let me scroll down and see what questions, thank you. See what questions we have. Okay. Bear with me. There's a lot of people that joined, but I have to scroll through all the ones that say they joined in order to get to the questions. Just a second. We're getting to it. Patience, Patagon. Okay, just a minute. Okay, sorry. We're at least for the first ton of people that joined, there's no questions. So let me just keep going. And then, once I get done with it, I'll call it a day for the live. Every now and then I don't get many questions. Sometimes I get so many questions I can't finish them all. But here's one. Okay. I lost my green card. Can I apply for my U.S. citizenship without my green card? Or do I have to apply for the N-90? So here's the thing. When you lost your green card, you don't lose lawful permanent residency. Okay? You're still a lawful permanent resident. Now, if you happen to hop down to Mexico for vacation, they're not going to care about the fact that you say that you lost your green card because you have no legal way of getting back, and there's all kinds of issues. So what you need to do, and the short answer to your question is yes, if you qualify. If you qualify to become a citizen, you don't need to have your physical green card with you, okay? I guarantee you that when you submit your application, they're going to make sure that you're a lawful permanent resident before you walk into the interview, okay? But don't play games with them. If you didn't really have a green card or you're pretending to have lost a green card. Now, I'm not saying you're doing that, but I've had clients that have done that. They have flat out lied to me about losing the green card when in fact they never really had it. Okay, and then when I press them on the issue, oh, well, I thought that I had, it's almost humorous. So you want to make sure, of course, that you really are a lawful permanent resident. Now, you need to make sure that you qualify for citizenship. So the losing your green card is a very minor issue in applying for citizenship. What you need to do is look more at all the other issues. How did you get the green card? Was it lawful? Were there any issues? And a lot of times there are. A lot of times you think immigration forgot about it. I have people who came here 20 years ago, and they came on a petition where the petitioner died, but they forgot to tell them that the petitioner died, and they find out, obviously. And then what happens? They go to become a citizen for naturalization. And next thing you know, they're in removal proceedings because they never had the official green card anyways. So you can apply, but I would suggest, for example, getting a consultation with me to determine you qualify for citizenship without issues. I mean, even if there are issues, there may be ways of getting around it. Okay? All right, let's see. Please reply. I just did. Okay. Let's see. The number of viewers hit an all-time high in 30 days. Well, that's good to hear. Considering also that I went to India and Dubai for 18 days, so I didn't have any viewers during that time because I was in India and Dubai. So, if you have a chance to go there, do. It's a long plane ride there. Okay, just a minute. Greetings. My entire AOS was finally approved. Well, I'll say congratulations before I read on. Thinking of withdrawing my pending asylum case. Okay. All right, well, first things first. If your AOS was approved, okay, then that means that you have no further asylum case. They cannot adjudicate an asylum case for someone who's a lawful permanent resident. So it's not a matter of thinking of withdrawing it. If your adjustment was approved and there's no issues, okay, I might need to see if there's issues, but if there's no issues and the adjustment was approved, you must withdraw your asylum application, okay? And it's simple. You just let them know that you have lawful permanent residency based upon marriage petition or whatever, and you're withdrawing your pending asylum case. You need to do that for two reasons. One, because you need to do it. And two, because there's people waiting in line who are not able to go because yours is pending, okay? So that's easy peasy, okay? You're not going to be able to adjudicate an asylum with an approved AOS, okay? All right. Will Trump Muslim ban affect green card holders returning to the country? Okay, first of all, I don't have a crystal ball. Obviously, he's going to push the envelope and try whatever he can to make it miserable for the immigrants. We know that. And as of right now, there is no Muslim ban. But there might be 3 hours after he goes into office. Who knows? But the fact is, don't just take whatever he does, which he's going to do a lot. Don't get an ulcer over it. There's going to be thousands of immigration lawyers across the country who are going to be fighting it for the next 4 years. Okay, we know that. We're going to be fighting it tooth and nail the next 4 years. It's going to be going, through all the courts and everything. And there's a lot of judges and a lot of courts that are not Trump judges and Trump courts. And even a lot of Trump judges that he appointed that are fair, okay? That will adjudicate things fairly. So don't despair. But then I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't tell you right now, without knowing what he's going to do. Okay? All right. Let's see what we have. Second. Let me keep scrolling. So I see another guy named Brian joined. I have a funny story from law school. When I first went to law school, just as an aside, I met somebody, right? And we shake hands, and I go, "Hi, my name's Brian," and he goes, "Hi, my name's David." And I go, "Funny, my middle name is David." And he goes, "Funny, my middle name is Brian." How often will that ever happen? You know, we just laughed about that. Okay, second. Let me keep scrolling. Just a minute. Okay. Sorry, it sometimes I scroll and then it just goes all the way up. Oh, 1 second. I'm almost to where I was. Okay. I thank you for your patience. Okay. Well, I think this is where I was. Okay. What is an illegal immigrant? I cringe when I hear people say there are 20 million illegal aliens. Well, the bottom line is it's someone who doesn't have authorization to be here. It's an expired non-immigrant, or someone who's been ordered removed, or someone who entered illegally, or someone who has lost their status. Okay, given that, there's a ton of different ways that those people. Oh, thank you. There's a ton of different ways that people can obtain legal status by laws passed by Congress. Okay? All right. Let's continue going down the list here. Hi, sir. How are you? I'm good. How are you doing? Do you have any updates on SIJ visa backlogs? Well, that's the special immigrant juvenile petitions. And it is what it is. Okay? There's a certain number of people per category that are allowed in, depending where they're from. And places like Mexico, Philippines, China, India have the largest amount of influx into the United States, and so they have the largest backlog. And so sometimes, if you consult with me, I find other ways that they're able to get in sooner, based on different things, cross-chargeability or qualification for other things, and so forth. But you do have to look at the visa bulletin every month and see if it's gone up, and you'll find out. Okay, that's how it is. Be patient. Let's see. Okay, so you asked that same question 3 times, but I answered you. See, I told you I'd get to you. Okay. Okay, how would I file if my wife has to be in another country due to a child custody battle? Well, I'm sure that's going to be fun. You go through consulate processing and assume she qualifies. Okay. There's lots of ways to bring someone in here. They don't have to physically be here. That just means they don't adjust status. They do consulate processing. So if she qualifies, you go through all the various immigration procedures. Eventually, it's sent to the U.S. consulate where, has jurisdiction over where she lives. They open up a file. There's certain other things that need to be done. And then eventually she goes in for an interview. And if it's approved, she'll get a I-551 stamp on her passport, become a lawful permanent resident, and be able to come into the U.S. from there. And then once she would come in, if she still is having the custody battle, she can just leave and go take care of business. Okay, so that's how you do it. But it depends. If she has no legal status or is going to become subject to a bar, then There's different ways of doing it, but I would need to see. Okay. Okay, just a minute. I don't know why the questions, when I'm asking them or answering them, it like just pops right to the bottom, and then I have to scroll back up again to get to where I was. Maybe it's TikTok saying they're going to give my thumb practice by doing that. Just a minute. Here I am. Okay, my husband completed 5 years probation when he took citizenship test and passed, but was denied. Well, first things first. See, you're thinking that you're guaranteed naturalization when you have finished your 5-year probation, and that's not true. Okay? First of all, naturalization is discretionary. It's not mandatory. Okay? And if it was mandatory, you wouldn't need to actually fill out the application, have an interview, submit the exhibits, and have everything go forward. You'd just check the boxes, and boom, they would grant it. So I need to see and know what his crime was for, because I'd be worried about more than the fact that it was just denied. And I don't know how long ago it was denied, but if it was just denied, I'd be worried they're going to now put him in removal proceedings, because his crime might make him inadmissible or removable, and they might not only have denied the naturalization, but the next thing you know, he's going to get a notice to appear in the mail and have to fight his case to keep his green card. So if I were you, I'd contact my office so I could see what the deal is. He's in the hot seat now, and he's flagged. Okay? So that's that. Okay, there's issues. People shouldn't apply for naturalization without consulting an immigration attorney if they have a criminal history. Period. Okay, there's all kinds of traps you can fall into. But I'm a master at getting people out. So, give my office a call. K3 visa. Well, there's no question here. You just put K3 visa. Okay? So I'll just tell you quickly, K3s are used very infrequently. The timing of it just has never panned out. I mean, it has to be done before the I-130 is approved, so you have to file the I-130, then get the K3, and if it's timed right, then it'll happen. I have found in all the years K3 have been available, very, very few have actually timed out properly. I use pretty much any other option available other than the K3, so I wouldn't hold your breath on a K3. Can you do VAWA and asylum? Well, the answer is yes. Okay. It's like two horses going around the track. Okay. First one to the finish line wins. And each horse doesn't care about the other one. They just want to win. So I'd have to know, first of all, if you have a valid VAWA case. And then I'd have to know if you have a valid asylum case. Okay. For example, some people come here on asylum and they think they qualify for VAWA because they were beaten in their home country by their husbands, and that's why they escaped. But they don't qualify for VAWA because they weren't beaten inside the United States, and they weren't beaten by a lawful permanent resident or U.S. citizen they were married to. As bad as it is, there's statutory qualifications for VAWA. So I'd need to see about your case to let you know, but in general, yes, you can apply for both. And if you have a good VAWA case, that's a better one to apply for, because the burden is less than with asylum. Okay? That's the fact. Okay. Citizenship. This is okay. I spoke earlier about the person who had probation for 5 years and then was denied, and you say the citizenship, I guess, was denied because he didn't have the document where he completed everything successfully. Well, that's easy enough. If that's the case, you can do a motion to reopen, submit what needs to be done, and then go from there. Okay? If that's the only reason. I wouldn't assume that is the only reason thus far, though. Okay? I would very much need to know what the crime was. Okay, Wells Fargo is closing up count for people with C-18 work permit? Okay. Wells Fargo is a private bank. They can do what they want. They don't even have to offer accounts to people who are not residents or citizens. I mean, that's the fact that they can do it as they want. So if that's the case, that's the case. Move to someone who does accept. Okay, that's that. I have a T visa process pending. Is it possible I had 2 visa cases at the same time if I had 2 incidences? Well, I mean, if the incidences are related, it's still one T visa because it's a pattern. Okay, but for example, if you were a victim of sexual abuse, but then you were also a victim of work trafficking, I mean sexual trafficking, but and work trafficking, those are clearly 2 different processes. And yes, you can do 2. I generally wouldn't. I generally would do the one that is stronger. So I'd have to analyze your case and see what is stronger. I suspect the reason you're asking this question is because the one you currently have pending might not be very strong. If that's the case, then you might want to either amend it if it's related or file a new one based upon the differing facts. Okay. How much is your consultation? Well, the initial consultation's free and it doesn't last very long. I mean, normally when I'm giving a telephonic consultation, I can determine everything that needs to be done in a few minutes. I don't need that much time. But there are times where people want more explanation. They want to understand more. For example, they want a 20 or 30-minute consultation, and I can do both. I mean, my firm charges $250 for a 20-minute or $350 for a 30-minute. Okay, so it's up to you. Get the easy peasy free, or you get the 20-minute for $250 or the 3-minute for $350. Okay. And as a side note, if you get the consultation, you later retain my firm, the consultation fee's deducted. Okay? How long to get the green card after additional RFE submitted based on asylee for more than 18 months? Okay, I'm not sure if you're saying that you submitted the RFE more than 18 months ago. Okay? And also, I'm not sure if it was ever approved. You cannot assume just because you answered an RFE that it's going to be approved. That is not a good assumption. The fact is the RFE is a request for evidence. And a request for evidence means they don't have enough information to make a decision. So once you submit the information, they then hopefully will be able to have enough information to say yes, but they may say no. Okay, that might be the reality. So I would need to know if it's actually been 18 months since you submitted the RFE. If so, that's too long for them to at least get back with you. Not to just get the green card, but to get back with you. So you might have to do a writ of mandate, which is essentially to sue immigration to force them to make a decision. But I would never do that unless I was sure the case was a good case. So I'd need to know what the facts are on your asylum and if there's a decent chance of winning. Okay, if you didn't have a good asylum case, I would never do a writ of mandate. Okay, thank you, Olga. You just got the #1 gifter badge. I don't know if you can see that. Okay. Let's see. Is undocumented the same as illegal? Yes, that would be the case. I mean, the term of art is that they don't have any legal status here. Okay. So whether it's illegal because they ran out of, I mean, you could have been documented, but then ran out of status. You could have come here on a B2 visitor visa, and be sufficiently documented, but then stayed here for 10 years. Then, of course, you would have been out of status for 9.5 years. And that makes you illegal here. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. Whoops. It just scrolled way up again. Just a minute. Can I apply for my mother-in-law to come to the USA? I'm an American citizen. No. There is no family basis for a mother-in-law to come here. Now, if you're saying, can you submit a supporting letter so that maybe, she can come visit, that's fine. But the first thing I'd have to ask is, if you're an American citizen, what is your wife? I suspect your wife is a lawful permanent resident. I suspect your wife wants your mother-in-law to come here. You need to wait for your wife to become a U.S. citizen. So I need to know how long she has had lawful permanent residency in order to speed along. Now, if you're a U.S. citizen and that's how your wife got the green card, then we're talking 3 years for her, assuming she qualifies to become a U.S. citizen, even if she got the conditional green card. And then, once the conditions were removed, she can almost turn around and apply for naturalization. So it's nothing that's going to happen overnight, but that would be the best way. Okay? Can I get a work permit while my U visa is pending? Well, that depends. It depends if it's been adjudicated as a bona fide U or not, and some other issues, because it's taking a very long time for U's now. They're backlogged almost 10 years, believe it or not, which is sad, because what that says is there's a lot of people, a lot of immigrants who are victims of crime. Okay, that's what that says. Okay. How does it thaw the permafrost? Well, that's not an immigration question. I might be able to answer that if I had more information, though, but that's not an immigration question. I submitted the RFE 2 weeks ago, and it's based on medical RFE. Okay, well, 2 weeks ago is nothing, okay? If you submitted the RFE and it's everything that was asked for, then you should realistically wait a couple months, and they should answer you by then. Okay. I cannot believe your asylum was approved more than 18 months ago. I don't believe that, because if you have an RFE, that means right there it was not approved. Okay. If your asylum was approved and you applied for adjustment a year later and you got an RFE based on the adjustment, that's a different story. That has nothing to do with the asylum application, but that's not what you're saying. Okay, so I need more information from you. Okay, my wife is a U.S. citizen. She's in another country for a custody battle. I'm the beneficiary. Oh, can she file my green card? Well, she didn't say that before. Okay, she can file, but she has to prove her domicile is in the U.S. Okay, so I don't know how long she's been out of the U.S. If she can prove that she has domicile in the U.S., it's an easy enough way to get around. You just need to find someone who can sign the joint affidavit of support, make sufficient money, so that you don't become a public charge. So that's how you do that. Can I apply for a visitor visa? Now, I know I answered a question for you above. I just can't remember what it was. Excuse me. So it depends if you qualify. Okay, you of course have to have non-immigrant intent and the intent to return to your home country once you visited Disneyland. Okay, my mom, see, I bet you're from the UK. My mom green card application filed but was just denied. Well, I need to know why it was denied to help you. So normally what I do in cases like this is I say, send me the denial. Don't send me the whole file. Don't send me the application. Don't send me 6,000 pages. Just send me the denial. And in 30 seconds, I'll be able to tell you how I can help you and the procedures and costs. Okay, so just send that to me. I'll let you know. How long does it take to get the green card through the T visa? Well, assuming you got the T visa, you need to wait 3 years and then you can apply for the green card. But you need to get the T visa first. That's the hard part. Okay. Honestly, getting the green card after the T visa is an easier part. I'd also need to know if you're inadmissible on any grounds and if there needs to be a waiver. Okay. Okay, 485 reopened to reconsider. Completed RFE for proof of lawful entry medical exam. Good sign. Well, when a 485 is reopened, that by itself is a good sign. You don't even have to tell me anything else. Okay, so that by itself is a good sign. If you completed the RFE for proof of lawful entry, see, I suspect you have you're doing a marriage petition. You probably submitted before it was denied because you didn't show that you entered legally, and now you're showing that it was reopened because you showed you entered legally somehow and you didn't submit the proof, as well as the medical exam. So if you did it right, yes, it's a good sign. If you didn't do it right, it's not. But all in all, based on what you're saying, it's a good sign. Okay, my mom's green card application petitioned by her husband was just denied. I turned 21. Can I file for? And then, of course, I can't see the rest of the question. You've aged out. Okay, you've aged out. I don't know if you got a conditional green card based on your father-in-law, but that would have had to have been 3 years ago because you would have had to have been under 18 at the time that they got married. So I'd need to have more facts here, but it's likely that you probably aged out. Okay, and you're going to have to find your own way. So, give me a call or send me a message. I'll let you know. Okay, just a second. Okay, yeah, that's what I mean on the 45. Thank you so much. You are welcome. So yeah, I mean, if you submitted the RFE and it was just pro forma type stuff on the adjustment application, and you submitted it 2 weeks ago, realistically, you're looking at 2 to 3 months. It shouldn't take longer than that. Hello, sir. Hi, sir. Hello. How are you? She was denied. It's funny how these questions work. They give me the first part. I answer it. 300 more people join. I answer 12 more questions, and I get a continuation of how I answered, so I have to remember what it is that I said before. She was denied because they missed some questions there on the Stoke interview. Well, the question is, when you say missed some questions, she didn't answer them properly. She misrepresented answers. She forgot. I mean, there's a whole, when you say missed some questions, there's some serious issues what you mean by that. Okay, 1 second. T visa approved 4 years ago. How long for the green card? Well, I mean, if your T visa was approved 4 years ago, you could have applied for the green card a year ago. I think you might be thinking the green card magically ends up in your door, and it doesn't. You have to apply for it. Okay, you have to show that the T visa was approved, and then you have to show, if you qualify and if you're inadmissible and if you need waivers, you need to do the whole adjustment application. It doesn't just magically appear, but don't wait. Especially don't wait. If I were you, I'd get it out the door right away. Okay, can I apply for asylum if I testified against a cop that killed a friend in front of me? Well, I mean, that could definitely be the basis for asylum, but I would have to know what's going to happen to you because you were a witness. I would have to know, where did this occur? Did it occur inside the U.S.? Did it occur outside the U.S.? Why was the friend killed? Was it retaliation, or was the friend running away? Okay, so it was in Uruguay. So it all depends. Okay. And it's unclear where you are now. So contact me directly because there might be ways to help you, but I need more information. Well, we have come to the end of our time together today. So this has been the live for today. I hope everybody's enjoyed. Thank you for all the likes, all the hearts, and everything else. I will be back shortly with another live. Everybody have a good weekend, and we will be in touch.